Wait a minute. There's no way it could be this simple. Oh. Hey, y'all. Those of you who frequent a couple of the groups that I frequent on Facebook may recognize that opening clip. Now, let me explain it. When it comes to certain things, I can overcomplicate a marble. What that clip was the result of stepping back and looking at something from a slightly different angle and from a slightly different point of view. Now, I've been looking for a way to use a touch plate with my rotary axis, and I even drew up a couple of ideas in SketchUp just to kind of get a visual feel for what I wanted to do. When suddenly it struck me that I don't have to do anything. I can use the triple edge finder that I got from Bill Griggs over at the Maker's Guide, link in the description box below, and drive on. So, I've also done another modification to my rotary axis, and I'm going to show you that as well in this video. And then towards the end, I'll show you the settings I put into Mach 3 to use my triple edge finder to find my Z0 on the rotary axis. So if you want to see how I did all that and see what modifications I've made to the rotary axis, stick around. Probably the easiest to see of the modifications I've done is the addition of this flat piece of aluminum here. Now this is just some 1 1/4" by 1/16 thick flat aluminum stock that I had floating around, and I mounted it to the tailstock mount here. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but if you look right here at the base of the tailstock, there's a slight recess here. And that recess is not quite, well, just a little over 3/32 and not quite 1/8 of an inch deep. It's deep enough for a piece of 1/16 inch flat stock to fit in there with a little bit of a screw head sticking up. But I basically lined everything up, and now I can take my tailstock, sit it down, it straddles that, and it keeps it nice and straight. Now I have centered it to where it meets up with the center of the chuck. So that makes it a heck of a lot easier to put the tailstock on and mount it down and keep it nice and straight. So I don't have to go back and forth anymore with my machinist rule when I center a piece of stock on here. I can just find the center of the stock, put it in the chuck, and then line up the crosshairs with my live center here, and then go for it. Now, you can see I can still get it crooked if I don't remember to push that forward against this edge of this aluminum piece here. 1.5 inches would have probably been better, but I just don't have any 1.5 inch wide aluminum here, and I wasn't going to make a special trip to get some. All I got to remember to do is to push it up against this edge, and I can slide it pretty much where I want to, then fasten it down. So that eliminates a lot of backing and forth in there. The other is setting my Z, and that's going to be the main focus of this video. Let me go ahead and get set up, and I'll show you my new way of setting my Z axis. So now with the ability to set my Z0 to the center of my chuck first time every time, I no longer have to go through a lot of backing and forthing and figuring out exactly where I'm going to put my material by measuring off of the front of the table anymore. I can just mark my material center like so, chuck it in, and then drive the live center into the material right here at the crosshairs. And I know it will be level and straight. So that's a big help right there. Now let's get into Mach 3 and I will show you how I modified the script for using the touch plate to work with my rotary axis. Actually, before we get into Mach 3, we need to take a slight detour, and that's going to be over to the Guru Brew YouTube channel here, and I'll put a link to this in the description box below. Now, Steve over at the Guru Brew did a very, very good video on how to set up a touch plate to auto zero your Z-axis in Mach 3. Now, if you've already got a touch plate, maybe you've already seen this, but whether you've seen this or not, it's worth a watch. It's only a 13-minute video. It is worth watching because there's some good information here. If you've never set up a touch plate, this is how I set up my touch plate. Okay? Well, part of it anyway. So, the main reason I want to send you over here, although it is a great video, that's not the main reason to send you over here. The main reason is because down here in the description, he has a link to the VB script that he uses in Mach 3. And that is the script I'm going to use for the touch plate for the rotary axis. Is this script here, and I'm going to modify it. So again, link in the description box below to the Guru Brew YouTube channel. And while you're over there, check out some of his other videos. He's got some good content over there. You might go ahead and subscribe to his channel. He does some good stuff over there. After downloading that script, now we'll go ahead and we'll get into Mach 3. And I'll do that. Come over here, and I want to start my rotary axis profile. And here we go. We'll do a quick reset. Now, in order to figure out exactly how to set up this script, what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to get a couple of measurements. Now, on my headstock housing for my rotary axis, from the base of the housing itself to the center of rotation is 65 millimeters. The overall height of the housing is 100 millimeters. Well, a little bit of quick math, 100 minus 65, that leaves me 35 millimeters from the center of rotation to the top of the housing of my headstock. So I'm going to keep that 35 millimeters in mind. Then I will come down here and do a quick Google search with the built-in calculators in Google. 35 millimeters turns out to be 1.37795 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to enter 1.37795 inches, and I'm going to add that to the physical thickness of my touch plate, my triple edge finder. And I happen to know that that is 0.6130. Please take your own measurements. These measurements here are examples only to show you how I came up with these numbers that I'm using. Hit enter, and I have a measurement of 1.99095. That is the number I'm going to enter as the thickness of my touch plate in the script that I get from Guru Brew. So we can go ahead and go back into Mach 3. Oops. Now before we go into Mach 3, I'm going to bring up the script that I downloaded from the Guru Brew. And this is it right here. This is as you would get it from here, from him. We get down here to this point, call set DRO. This number right here in the parentheses, that's where I'm going to enter the thickness of my touch plate.
and in my case it's the touch plate and the housing down to the center of rotation. So I'm going to enter this number here instead of the 0.060 he has. So we'll go 1.99095, and that's the thickness of our touch plate. Now we have to come down, and there's one more setting we need to change. And this is an important one, and it's down here 2 lines below. Code, in quotes, G1Z1F50, end quote. It's this Z1 point that we need to change. What this is after the bit has come down and touched off on the touch plate, it's going to retract, and it's going to retract to whatever height is right here. Now, this retract height has to be a bigger number than our touch plate thickness, because if I leave it at Z1 point, it's going to try to drive down almost another inch after touching off. So we need this number here to be bigger than this number here. I'm going to go ahead and change it to 3. That means it's going to come, the bit's going to come down, it's going to touch that touch plate, then lift up to 3 inches above 0, then set the DRO to 3 inches. That'll make sense when we get outside back onto the CNC router. Okay, so with these 2 changes made, my touch plate thickness and my retract height, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this as a different file. And I'm going to put it back on my desktop. Get rid of that one. I'm going to call it Rotary Axis Z0 touch plate script, and I'll save it. I've already done this once before. I replaced it. So now, this script is just fine. This is the way I'm going to run it. Get rid of the calculator. Now in Mach 3, I've got my rotary axis profile loaded. I'm going to come up here to Operator, Edit Button Script, and you see some buttons start flashing. The one I'm concerned with is Auto Tool 0 right here. I'll click Auto Tool 0 and the script window opens. Okay, what I want to do is I want to click somewhere down in here because I want to erase everything in this window. And that's going to put my cursor up right after the last character. And remember, when you're talking about scripts, spaces count as characters. So we want to get rid of all the spaces and everything. So we'll click down here, and I've hit backspace on my keyboard to erase everything. Now I'll come back over here to Notepad, hold down the Control key, and hit the A key to select it all. Control key, tap C to copy it. Come back over here, my cursor is flashing right there. Hold down the Control key and tap V. And that just pasted all of that script, and my cursor is flashing right here at the end of if. So all of this script was just transferred over to here. Now I can go File, Save, Close, and I can minimize that down. We are now programmed. We're ready to use the touch plate.
Okay, I've moved the camera over to where hopefully you can see everything. I have my rotary axis profile loaded in Mach 3 here. I've got my A axis plugged in. My Y has already been set. The gantry's already been moved forward before I switched over to this configuration. And what I've got here is I've got my triple edge finder. Now, the triple edge finder has this machined area here underneath, where this is meant to sit on the corner of a piece of material so you can register your X and Y axes using the hole in the middle. Well, I'm not going to be using that part I'm just using this as a standard Z0 touch plate. So I'll flip it over upside down so that this sits on the housing of my rotary axis. So I'll just be using this recessed area here in the triple edge finder to set the Z on my touch plate, or on my gantry rather. So first I'm going to go over here into the diagnostics tab, and I'm going to make sure that my digitize LED lights up when I touch it here, which it does. That means I got good connectivity, so I won't get any scary moments. Now I'll switch back over to program run. Now, right now none of the zeros are set on this at all. You can see I've got readings in all three of the DROs, and that's fine. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and bring down the bit till I get close enough, and putting my finger over the panic button on my Xbox 360 controller, I'm going to come down here and click on the Auto Zero button that we just programmed. The bit goes down, touches the touch plate, and lifts back up. Now, when we set this in Mach 3, I set that to lift up 3 inches. You'll notice it did not lift 3 inches above the touch plate. It's lifting that 3 inches above the center of rotation on my chuck here. I just wanted to clear up the confusion. And if you look over at the Mach 3 screen, let me zoom it in a little bit, you can see that the Z DRO is reading 3 inches. So again, it lifts that bit up to 3 inches above the center of rotation on the chuck. Zoom you back out. If I had left that where it was, with that Z at 1, it would have come down and touched. Internally, Mach 3 would read the 0, and with that Z at 1, it would have tried to driven down to where the tip of that bit was 1 inch above the center of rotation. That's what changing that Z1 to Z3 accomplished. It lifted up to 3 inches above the center of rotation, which is only, about 1.5 inches above the level of this touch plate. So that's why we set that up. So that's it. That's how I now set the Z0 on my rotary axis. And that's the modification I made to my mount here, so I can move my tailstock and mount a piece of material in the chuck without going through a bunch of gymnastics and playing around with the machinist scale. So if you got anything at all out of this video, please give me a thumbs up down there. They really do matter. If you want to follow along with my further CNC adventures, consider subscribing to me down there as well. And whether you're subscribed to me or not, hit that little bell button. That way you'll get a notification the next time I upload a video. Now, as I mentioned before, I've put links in the description box below. The first one is to the Guru Brew channel, where you can get a copy of this script for Mach 3 and check out Steve's touch plate video. It really is a good video. You might subscribe to his channel too. He's got a lot of great content over there. I've also put a link in the description box below to the Maker's Guide, where you can get some information on a triple edge finder for your CNC router. I've also put a link in the description to Dave Gatton's homepage, where you can get some information on a Gatton CNC kit of your own. So, that's going to wrap up this video. I'd like to thank you very, very much for watching, and y'all take care.